quick. So this is now our wrap-up session for the day. We had 4 terrific sessions today. We started with the components of a research computing resource. Then we had the facilitating cloud computing panel. Then the panel on deciding which technologies to adopt and when. And of course, now we're wrapping up with the research data management lightning talks. What were some lessons, some takeaways that you all had from the sessions that we had today? What are some things that you're going to be able to put to work at your own institution, whether it's a specific piece of technical information or a more general philosophy, something that you think will be valuable at your institution? And you can answer by voice or in the chat, Zoom chat. Oh, it's so quiet. I feel like I should offer $1 for whoever comes in with the first answer.
I was just going to say the same thing, Henry. Everybody is so tired, I'm sure, at the end of the day.
Yes.
Matt Smith said open on demand looks interesting.
Yeah. We deployed it. I think a number of institutions have deployed open on demand now and are starting to get some really good experience with it. We're finding that in particular, it's really, really valuable for supporting courses that want to use Jupyter notebooks. Harrison, the question was a very generic one. What are your takeaways from today that you think you can put to work at your institution? And I'm sorry, Anita, I think I interrupted you. You were going to make a point as well.
Oh, no, I was just trying to keep up with the chat for you.
Okay. In the past, you used to get us crazy with survey email at the end of the day. Do you not do that anymore? Only when we're working on an evaluation project with our evaluation partners. And this year they lost the primary person who had been doing that. She moved to an industry position. And so I don't think it was practical this year for them to do an evaluation the way that we did last year. If we think even farther into the past to some of the workshops we've done with other organizations, those other organizations have done surveys and things like that. But we at OU have to be very careful because our institutional review board is very, very particular about what is and what is not human subjects research. And so we tend to shy away from doing those evaluations ourselves. We tend to encourage other organizations to do evaluations. And this year, unfortunately, we weren't able to book our evaluator from last year because of their change in personnel.
So Lynn said, teasing out commonalities like Scott explained is crucial and yet very difficult given the variety in research.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And my experience aligns really well with what Scott said. It's very, very difficult to get an individual researcher to think about their whole discipline, let alone other disciplines. And I'll be honest and say I am pessimistic about getting them to do that. And I think it's really on us as research computing and data professionals looking at sort of the zoom out view that we get. I think arguably we know more about the research enterprise at our own institutions than anybody else except the leadership of the VP or VC of research at our institution. We have a very broad view of the research enterprise at our institution and what their needs are. And I think in the end, it inevitably falls to us to solve a lot of these problems, because I think Scott's absolutely right. It's not really in the habit of mind or the wheelhouse of individual researchers, individual PIs to think through the broader issues. I think that's so
importantly,
outside.
Yeah. Go ahead, Scott.
I was gonna say one of the additional values is you need faculty on your side, right? You need buy-in to the thing you're trying to do because they're your voice to the administration. Like your voice to the administration has little value in comparison to a bunch of rockstar faculty, right? So you really need their voice, and you can only get their voice if you start them early in the process of what you're trying to create and include them as a part of the discussion. So, and I mean, you're going to pick and choose the researchers, right? So you have relationships with the different people, you pick and choose who they are. And you want to make sure not do it. You want to try to spread out the breadth of the disciplines that you're talking to, because that means the impact of what you're doing is larger. So.
Yes,
Yeah, I think that's
comment is, I think Stephen wrote best practices for communicating with researchers from his takeaway from today. And I think that's exactly the whole point, is that we have to be that glue to provide that commonality across all of them, to be able to give them the perspective that this is not only going to serve you, it's going to actually serve these many other researchers at the same level. And I think that's really great to see these.
Yeah, I think y'all are making excellent points here.
And I guess we use technology. I should say, we should try to use technology to solve their problems incrementally, right? Like if we can solve like a data transfer problem and we have a solution for that, and then we can come back and solve some other problem. Like I don't want to have to use the command line. Here's on demand, here's a web interface, here's a different way to do it. You made it easier, right? So if you continue to do that, you also are building trust over time. So I think that's the important thing, that your group has the ability to solve problems, right? To create solutions. Because I was told like just a week ago by a faculty, like, I don't need your services, I need a solution. I was like, point taken. So, and a solution means something that's comprehensive, that solves like a broader set of problems, not just the one service that you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm pessimistic.
Oh, go ahead, Vas.
No, carry on.
You go.
I was going to say, like Henry, I'm pessimistic about a generalized approach, but I'm actually very optimistic about a discipline-specific approach. And Lynn mentioned the DL Hub for AI models, so a repository that we've been helping build out. So I think if we work with people who deeply understand the domain and get some successes and build these end-to-end solutions in these domains, I think that's a pretty good goal to have for the medium term. And then I think we may generalize, sort of as we learn, we may generalize some of that more broadly.
Very good points. And I was kind of very interested in what people are putting in. And Harrison said in bold letters, he has research facing costs for cloud are higher, and look into on demand. I think a lot of us have experienced that as well, that it's difficult to assess the costs for cloud. And that, I know some of the presentations today were saying how much they want to leverage their local clouds, but I don't know if anybody else has any other comments, or Henry, of course.
Well, I do 100% agree with what Harrison said, and I have not attempted to sell that idea up the chain of command. What I've attempted, and I think successfully, to sell up the chain of command is the researcher-facing costs don't go down if you move to cloud. So when we do a cost comparison of on-campus versus cloud, the comparison we're doing is minus all of the researcher-facing labor. I'm able to convince them, or at least they have not up to this point put up an argument against that point of view. I agree 100%. Not only is it more, I strongly suspect that it's at least 50, if not 100% more, to do the researcher-facing tasks off campus rather than on campus. But I can't prove it. I have zero data. Just 20 years of experience in the trade that every fiber of my being is screaming it's going to be worse, not better.
I might even strike the word higher from that. I mean, I like just the phrase researcher facing costs in the cloud arena there. I mean, I've been trying to figure out a way to articulate it to our administration. We're good at finding a little bit of money once in a while, but very poor at funding recurring costs. And that really emphasizes the fact that that's how it's going to work. When they run out of money for the cloud, there goes your compute capability. So I like that, that's all. That's.
And Lynn added a comment, not all the burden of data management plans should go on researchers and local institutions. There need to be real incentives at the funding agency level, carrots and sticks. You know, it's interesting too, when the NSF first put out their requirement, and I think that was what, 2011, 2012, somewhere around there, when they first added that requirement for all proposals, they were very upfront that they did not have any preconceived idea of what constituted a good data management plan, and that they expected each discipline and really each sub discipline to figure out on their own what was a good data management plan, and then effectively, although they didn't say this, but effectively to enforce it within their own community. I think there's been some success, but I think the experience that the community had, for example, with broader impacts, where it took somewhere between 10 and 20 years to go from the point where everybody smiled and nodded and said it was a good thing to proposals actually get rejected if your broader impacts section isn't good. I think we're probably halfway down that trail for data management plans. I honestly believe that it shouldn't be a data management plan, it should be a data and software management plan. Yeah. But every time I bring that up, they're like, oh, we got enough to deal with. We don't need that problem. So I haven't made a big stink about it my own self. If others would like to, knock yourselves out. But I think it's going to be another 5 to 10 years before you hear from any colleague that they had a proposal rejected because their data management plan wasn't good enough.
Well, the other side of that, Henry, is like so we're one of the DIBS funding source, so data building blocks funding source recipients. And so, you know, like once every couple of years, you go to the NSF's meeting for that, where it's all the other funded groups. But somebody asked that specifically about what this person put in there is, NSF does not think it's their responsibility to fund just ongoing infrastructure, right? It's always to fund research and new innovation. So the long-term archiving space is really in the hands of local institutions, unless something like dramatically changes.
I agree,
process.
But
yeah,
the irony of that is that when Jim Wilgenbush from University of Minnesota did his survey of institutions to find out what they were doing for long-term data archiving, there were vanishingly few that could respond and say, here's what we're doing. And a subset of them were just getting started on this.
Right.
So I agree 100%. And I don't object to the notion that it's up to the institutions to solve this problem. The reality, at least to me, appears to be that that hasn't happened yet. And I'll do a self-serving plug for our store. So if you're in an EPSCoR jurisdiction, and you have a data archiving problem, send me an email and I may be able to help.
Yeah, this is Lynn Pouchard. I'm sorry I wasn't able, I only solved my Zoom problems at the end of the session, but yeah, finally. It was a conflict with my institutional account. And so now I'm on my personal account. And so at the Department of Energy, there is actually, when you review proposal, the questions are set. You have like a set number of questions that as a reviewer, you have to respond and justify your opinion. And there's one of the questions is about data management plan. So is the data management plan appropriate? Does it fit what the researcher wants to do? But I do not know of any proposal who's been rejected because of the data management plan. On the other hand, they never tell you why a proposal is rejected anyway. So, I mean, but at least there is some kind of a modicum of interest there. But this issue has made, I think, a lot of progress from having nothing in around 2010 to now, where each agency has their own requirements and their own their tools, and I think that's progress. It's slow, but there's progress.
I think that's absolutely correct. And if you put it in the starkest possible terms, 10 years ago, it was almost unheard of. Now it's normal. 10
Yeah.
years from now, it'll be a deal breaker if your data management plan is bad.
Right.
What's interesting is the NIH is starting to fund and look at resources that will be available for NIH proposals to have a destination for their data management plans, like a place that you put your data. They have numerous calls for that type of stuff right now going on. So hopefully maybe the NSF someday.
All right, I think let's wrap up here, and I'll do a quick preview of coming attractions for tomorrow. So tomorrow, we're starting in the morning with a panel on facilitating AI, machine learning, and deep learning. And then in the latter part of the morning, we've got a panel on ethics and privacy in advanced research computing. Then after lunch, we've got a panel on low-cost solutions for research computing hardware. And then in the last part of the afternoon, Scott is going to be talking about research computing and data professionals, job elements, and career guide. So if you enjoyed Scott as part of a panel, you're going to enjoy the heck out of him as the presenter. We're going to have a grand old time tomorrow. And of course, I will spam you mightily all day tomorrow and Friday. So don't worry, you will get an opportunity to be repoked, and you'll know that it's coming for each of these sessions. Thank you, everybody, so much. I'm so delighted at how the week has been going. I couldn't be happier, and looking forward to tomorrow and Friday as well. So see you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye, all.